Thank you, everybody, for being here. Name's Angel Ramirez. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to go ahead and be here with you guys translating La Mañanera. So please bear with me. I'm still getting ready here. And we're going to begin in just a few seconds so that we can go ahead and make sure that you understand exactly what's going on in Mexico. Thank you all to the special invites: Daniel Andrade, Eric Suarez, Michael Lopez, Arturo Solis, Lorena Salazar, Carlos Cordova, and all my internal team that makes this possible. So let's begin with today's Mañanera from Mexico City and Andres Lopez Obrador. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Miriam, for always being here with us. My internal team, ladies and gentlemen, are always here with me, and we're going to be working together with them every single day. Don't forget that we have our other channel. Here it is, AZTECRON Entertainment Official. Go ahead and look for it that way. We got everything about the entertainment moments and especially crime. We are also looking at some crime events. So if you guys want to go ahead and be a part of that, you will be more than welcome to be there with us, of course. So we're just waiting for Mexican's president to show up, and we'll start this immediately. Good morning.
Ánimo, ánimo.
Happiness,
Pues,
joy.
¿qué creen que
Well, what do you think? So
estoy
I am
al servicio de ustedes?
at your service.
¿Así?
Not much to.
4 y 3.
So we're going to be
Empezamos.
4 and 3. All right, let's go.
Gracias, presidente. Buenos días, Dalila Escobar de Proceso.
Dalila Escobar from Proceso. First, ask you about all these situations that were given about the clarification about the amounts and numbers about these contracts that were given to this family Romero due to a conglomerate of very different companies. So if this was clarified before that it meant to be of a interpretation of that number according to the information that the Army provided, there are confirmations that these contracts exist that are given to this company, and in the beginning we're managing 3,000 million pesos during the last 12 years. In the last 4 years of those, we have gotten this information from, of course, Sedena, which is the Mexican Army, and from Monday, the correction and clarification was made. But I want to ask you, what's going to happen with these companies? Will the contracts be revised and reviewed? Because this is about
y lo
a
de
provider
fabricantes,
situation and not
toda vez que, bueno, pues lo que hacen es
makers.
adquirir
So all they
lo que
do
tiene
is
que ver
to
con
acquire
cuestiones de
what has
armas
to do
y
in the
incluso
questions
refacciones
of
para
armaments,
vehículos
weapons,
militares. Pregunta
and
número 2.
military vehicles. To ask
Bueno,
you that
dos
first.
cosas.
Well, two
Primero,
things on that.
de que no
First,
es ilegal
that it is really not
el que
illegal
haya proveedores
that there are
en el gobierno.
providers in the government.
No existe
It
ninguna
doesn't
ley
exist. There's no law
que lo impida.
that
Al
prohibits that.
contrario,
In the contrary,
la ley de obras públicas
the public
este,
works laws
y muchas de las
and many of
compras que hace el
the
gobierno
purchases that the government makes,
se hacen a través de proveedores.
they're made through
O
providers.
sea, eso por un
Meaning,
lado.
from one end. The other,
Si hubiese alguna
if
irregularidad,
there was any irregularities,
un
maybe
sobrepago,
an overpayment
sobreprecio.
or an overpricing,
entonces
and
existe
so
la
there
Secretaría de la
exists
Función Pública y se
the
investiga.
Secretary Office of
No se
Public
permite
Functions,
en
and
este
it's not
gobierno
permitted
la
in this
corrupción
government the corruption. Corruption is not permitted,
De hecho,
y no hay impunidad.
and there's no
un
impunity.
poco lo que se manejaba
Well,
es
matter of
también el
fact,
tema, perdón,
something
del
that was
proceso de licitación
being
que
spoken
hubo.
about the licitations
De
that
acuerdo
were
con lo que se
handled, and
investigó,
according
había
to
una
what was
serie
said,
de
there was a series
cuestiones
of
favorables para este grupo de
favorable
empresas.
Hay que
questions,
verlo porque por lo general
situations. Well, we got to see that
es
because
común
in general, it's
de que los que pierden
common that the ones that
en una
lose
licitación
in a
siempre
licitation, they're always looking
inconformarse
for
y si no tienen
in
elementos
conformity, and if they don't have the elements
o no quieren
or don't want
mostrarse
to show
con transparencia, ¿no?
with
Y defender
transparency,
su
for
punto
example, to defend
ante
their
las autoridades
point with
Pues
the
utilizan a la
authorities, well,
prensa.
then they use
y le filtran información.
the
Que en este caso ni siquiera es
press
filtración,
and filter
porque está
information,
en el
because in this
portal,
case it's not even
oficial.
filtered
Entonces,
information because it's in
¿qué
the
es
official portal.
lo
So
que
what is it that
está en el fondo de este
is
asunto?
on the deep end of this?
¿Cuál es el fondo de este asunto?
What's the deep end?
No es ese
So
contrato,
it's not that
es la
contract.
deshonestidad
It's the dishonesty
de proceso.
of Proceso's newspaper.
Ese es el meollo de la cuestión.
That is the
O sea,
situation there.
no hay
I mean,
ética
there is no ethical
periodística. No es posible
journalism. It isn't possible
que se cometa
that these things are committed,
un error
that there's errors committed
al escribir una nota
to write a note
completamente difamatoria,
completely defamatory,
completamente difamatoria,
completely defamatory,
bajo la máxima
under
de la calumnia, cuando no
the
mancha
situation that when
en
the
una portada
lies bug
como
you,
nota principal
they mess with you. In a principal
Se
note or
aclare
newspaper, a
de que
heading
no son
that it is declared that they're not
8,000 millones de pesos,
8,000 million,
sino
but
8 millones.
8 million.
¿Qué hay una diferencia
Look at the difference there.
abismal?
Sí, lo que
O sea,
Big
permíteme,
ol'
permíteme,
visible
permíteme.
difference. Yes, but let me speak. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Y que todavía vengas tú,
And that you come here,
te manden a ti,
or they send you, with all due respect,
a preguntarme sobre lo mismo,
to ask me about the same thing
cuando proceso
when Proceso,
lo que debió hacer
what should have done
era
was
disculparse.
to
Permíteme,
ask,
permíteme.
to apologize. Well, excuse me, let me finish.
¿Qué hace el proceso?
What does Proceso do?
Además de que vienes de
Aside
nuevo
from that,
en el
you're
tema,
you're coming and bringing this up again.
manipula.
It
Dice, el
manipulates.
presidente
It says the president
confirma
confirms that this operation
en
took
cambio,
place,
tu compañero
and your partner
periodista
in difference, your
El que hace la
journalist
nota
partner, the one that did the notes,
ofrece disculpa
offers
Y
his
la revista
apologies, and the newspaper doesn't.
Porque son cosas distintas.
Because they're different things, two different
Es lo que
things.
siempre
And this
he
is what I'm
sostenido.
always been holding up.
Una cosa son ustedes,
One thing is you
los
guys,
trabajadores de los medios.
the media
Y otra cosa
company workers, and another thing
son los empresarios
is
de los medios,
the
o los
businessmen
dueños de los medios,
of these media outlets, or the owners,
de
or
los
the
dueños
interest of the
de los
owners
medios de
of the
información.
media of information.
Entonces, voy de nuevo,
So I'm going to say it again,
como dirían los abogados,
as the
a
lawyers would
leer
say.
el artículo. O sea, ¿por qué no me pones lo que ayer se dio a conocer de cómo
I'm gonna read the article. Why don't we put on what the newspaper guy from Proceso
dice?
says?
Él hace la nota.
He does the note.
Este es el proceso.
This is the process.
Esto es lo que hace el periodista.
This is what the newspaper guy does.
Respecto a la
In respect to the
la aclaración y la información proporcionada.
errata information,
Asumo el
the
error
declaration, I assume the error
en una cifra
in
del
a
reportaje. Pido
certain
disculpas
number of the report that was given, and I ask for
Nomás voy a
apologies.
agregar también a la Secretaría de la Defensa.
But they should have added, he should have added the Secretary of Defense as well.
Esto es el
But
periodista.
look, this is the
Miren, proceso.
journalist in Proceso.
Periodista el que escribe la nota, profe.
That's
Sí,
the
este es el periodista
journalist
que
that
escribe la
writes the
nota.
note. Yes, that's it.
Sí,
And
pero
also the one on the
este es
bottom.
proceso.
Yes, but this is Proceso.
Sí, sí, porque esta es la cuenta de proceso. Y
This
dice
is the account of
AMLO
Proceso. AMLO, or Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, and
aclararon
the
el
Marine
monto
clarified the amount of one of the contracts stated on the report.
Familia Romero, un nuevo
Romero
imperio
family, a new empire. They repeat this, a new empire
de proveeduría militar
of military
publicado en
providers,
proceso, pero
publicized in
añadieron
Proceso, but
que
they
a la
added
empresa
that the company,
textil no sé qué,
textile,
se le
God knows what,
adjudicaron 8,
was
y no
adjudicated
3
8,
contratos.
but not 3 contracts.
O sea, esto
This here
es deshonestidad,
is dishonesty.
falta de ética,
From whichever way you see it,
muy lamentable
lack
este
very sad
asunto
situation,
periodístico.
journalist
Pero esto es lo que
situation,
está
but this is what's here
en los últimos tiempos
in the last
caracterizando a Proceso.
moments, characterizing Proceso
Si
magazine. And so,
tienen dudas,
if there's any
sobre la
doubts
adquisición,
about the acquisition,
pues que se
the
presenten una
acquisition,
denuncia.
so then
Sí,
bring
está
up
bien, nada
the
más, o sea, sí para aclarar,
claim.
el asunto es, por supuesto,
So
la
just to
cuenta personal
clarify,
del reportero, pero
this
asimismo
is the
utilizo
account,
la
personal
nota
account
que
of the
por la
reporter,
información
but
que dio
this
la
is the
Sedena.
note that
La disculpa se ofrece
with the
en torno de la
information
mala
that
interpretación que
the
se hizo de una
information
cifra,
gave
pero eso no impacta
gotten
en
from
absoluto
Sedena,
nada.
but this does
No,
not
el
impact
tema, no, permítame,
anything. No,
el
no, no.
tema
Let me
que tiene que
finish.
ver con el monto
So
total que se manejó en el reportaje,
situation
que
that
son
was
3,000
handled in the
millones de
reporter
pesos. Si
that
bien
was more than 3,000 million pesos.
muestra una diferencia abismal,
If
no
it
tuvo
shows a
impacto,
difference,
pues,
it
en la
didn't have
conclusión
any
como
impact
tal
in the
de lo que
conclusion
sucedió
as well
en
as
el
what
reportaje.
happened in
Y se
the
manejó
report,
también sobre todo por
and
el
also
tema de
managed
todos los
in
manejos que han tenido
the
esta
situation
familia.
that all
De hecho, se
the
está
families,
apuntando a la empresa
businesses, in
y
fact,
que la
that
Sedena
this
pues provee
company
este tipo de
is
contratos
being
como lo podría hacer con
subjected
cualquier
to
otro
these types of
participante en
contracts
licitación.
when it could have been done
Pero
with any other
incluso se
company,
habla
and
también en
it's
esta
also been
información en
spoken
torno
about
al
the
hecho de que esta
information about the
empresa
fact
pues ha
that this
tenido
company
relaciones
has
con otras
had
empresas que
relations
se han
with other
visto
companies that have
inmersas y
been
que se
involved
se han
in
tenido esos contratos desde anteriores sexenios,
different contracts,
pero
I
que
repeat, that they've had from other presidencies. For example, the Panama Papers. That was a little bit of the deep end of what has to do with this type of companies. That, for example, not to forget the team and the subject about Grupo Mexico, Motengil, and other kind of companies that are still being benefited. And precisely speaking about the Grupo Mexico situation, there's another situation that has worried the sector of the population, and it has to do with the status of the getting out the bodies from the mine that was closed and fell on the workers, and the government made the promise to have or offer the recuperation and or a indemnation to the families. What they are saying is that they don't consider that there has been any advancements to come to the end of your presidency, and that the bodies were not going to be able to get out before your end of presidency. You in the beginning said that we were going to be working on this, and what's the advancement there? Because what they're mentioning is they feel that it's not going to be concluded because of a situation of advancement of natural working environments and in the companies in that case first. We are still working. We need more time. They're advancing really good. That company that is dealing with that from Pasta de Conchos, and we're going to be asking for some information to the Secretary of Work and Employment. But from what I know is that they're working really good. With the bodies, of course, we're going to be working on that and getting them out. It's a situation that is really intense, but at the same time, very humane. It's really complex as well. What is being done there about the works and the excavations. And we're going to be finishing that. All the other governments had omitted taking out the bodies of the miners. What we've done is all the indemnizations were paid, all of them, to the families. We're going to be informing them about that because if nothing is known, or it's on the proceso style, come and say here that we're not going to finish and we're still a year and 8 months to conclude my presidency. And so let's see, in conjunction, that I sustain that there's no text without context. So we're going to be informing. Matter of fact, today, I'm going to ask Secretary of Work to inform us in general, and that we get the information to your newspaper, to your magazine, done together with Subsecretary of Government, Alejandro Encinas. I'm going to remind you just a little bit about this case. I was with the family members about 2 years ago, and I told them, look, if there's a situation if there's a consensus of the mine, of some acres of the mine, will do a
un memorial.
memorial.
Quedan ahí en el memorial. Se pagan las indemnizaciones y
The
y se
indemnizations
hacen
are paid,
mejoras
and we do
al pueblo, a todo el pueblo.
work
Pero
to better
pónganse
the
de acuerdo.
entire town. But I told them to get together and come to an agreement with that.
No hubo consenso.
So there wasn't a
La
consensus.
mayoría sí quería porque
The
decían,
majority did want,
algunos
because
familiares,
some family
si
members
voy
said, well, if I'm gonna
a rescatar, ¿no? A mi
rescue
familiar,
this, my
y lo
family,
voy a llevar a un panteón,
and I'm gonna take them to a burial site,
mejor
better
lo dejo
to just leave it there,
porque voy a poner en riesgo
because I'm putting in risk
a los trabajadores que van a
all the
hacer el trabajo
workers
de
that are
rescate.
there
Se habla
to do the
de
rescuing,
que hay gases
because there's
abajo,
word about
y
there
que es
being
una actividad riesgosa.
dangerous
Entonces yo
gases,
soy
and it's a
partidario
risky situation. So I'm
del
a
memorial,
partisan of the memorial,
pero otras
but other
familias dijeron no,
families said
yo
no.
quiero los
I
restos
want my
de
family members' bodies.
mi hijo, de
My son, my
mi
husband,
esposo, de mi padre.
my father.
Entonces,
And
como
so,
un 70-80% estuvieron por el
70
memorial.
80% were agreeing to the
Y
memorial.
creo que unas 10
And only
familias,
10 families,
15 no recuerdo,
15,
dijeron no.
I'm not sure, they said no.
Entonces vinieron aquí
So they
de
came
nuevo
here
conmigo,
with me again,
porque además
because aside from
sacar los cuerpos,
to pull out the bodies,
de acuerdo a un estudio que hicieron
in
geólogos,
accordance to a study that
proyecto.
geologists did, a project
tenía 3
where they had
elementos.
3 different
Primero, el
elements. The first one
Que es,
was the timing, which is,
vamos a estar,
they
nos va a
said,
llevar 3-4 años.
it's going to take us about 3-4
Por
years.
eso comenzamos rápido.
That's why we started
Y por eso
quickly.
sostengo de que vamos a lograr.
That's why I'm holding up that we're gonna get it done,
Iniciamos de inmediato.
because we
Pero
started
primero, el
right
tiempo.
away. But first,
Segundo, los riesgos.
the time. Second, the risks.
Riesgos por lo que se vaya a encontrar abajo.
For whatever is found there.
El que
And also
no se pueda
that
encontrar.
we're not able to find anything.
Que ese fue el argumento
That, of course, that was the argument from
de ese entonces y también
that
del
government
Grupo
from
México,
then, and then as well as Grupo México,
de que había habido una especie
that
de
there was
explosión
some kind of
y
an
que no se iba a encontrar
implosion
nada.
and we weren't going to be able to find anything.
Y lo tercero,
And the third,
la inversión.
the investments.
No sé si 2,000 o 3,000 millones.
I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 million
Entonces,
pesos.
como dijimos,
So as we said,
que íbamos a atender
that
a
we
las
were going to
familias,
take care of the families.
que no se había hecho nunca.
That was not done
Cumplimos.
ever. So we
Pues estamos
managed to do it, and we are able
Ya
to do it.
la parte de la indemnización.
Now the
entonces,
indemnification
cuando
part, and
termina
then
la
so
reunión,
when the
les digo,
reunion
como no hay consenso,
finishes, since there's no
pues vamos
consensus, no
por lo
accordance,
que están pidiendo.
we're going to do with what you want.
Entonces, de todas maneras va a quedar
Either way,
el memorial,
the memorial is going
¿sí?
to be
De todas
created.
formas. Entonces,
Either way.
estamos
So
en eso. Me gustaría que
we're going to be dealing with that, and I would like for it to be informed.
sí. Sobre la otra mina, lo
And
mismo.
about the other mine,
Hoy informaron. ¿Por qué no
today
no
was
pones
informed
lo que informó Protección Civil?
what
Esta es la mina de
civil
Coahuila,
protection, but the mine of Coahuila in Savila,
la Pinabet.
Pinabet,
Y constantemente estamos
And constantly we've been
pendientes.
aware of what's going on.
Aquí está. Este es el informe de hoy.
This is today's announcement.
Sí, 37.3.
So it's 37.3% advancements. 1,136,566 square meters, cubic meters extracted of material.
35 voladuras.
35
Una profundidad promedio se lleva de 20 a 30 metros.
Meters from in between 20 to 30 meters.
5 reuniones informativas con
5
familiares.
informational reunions with family members.
Y aquí está el programa.
And here's the program.
Diciembre del 23, estamos pensando. El rescate.
Those 35 blasts that we had to do.
Están trabajando, es que es constante.
This is constant, but they're working on it.
Muy bien.
So, thank you, Mr. President. So, finally, about the Plan B situation in the Congress, about these last 4 laws that were missing, there's time to put it in the judicial power to get their answers. But since this is not happening, to ask you, what do you think about the situation if there's 2 that in some way in the Supreme Court, the first 2 parts of the law, and then Plan B, now they're approving the last piece, and then that we're speaking about the judicial power. In any moment, you mentioned that it's necessary that there's a reform in the interior, but I want to ask you if you consider that there had to be retired who is in charge of the judicial process, which is at the same time the same person that is leading the process of election. Well, I would say that the initiatives are approved in the legislative power, or that there are reforms to the Constitution, the laws, and that these get rejected
al Poder Judicial mediante recursos,
through
controversias,
controversies and resources to get this impugned. This is the normality of the democratic political ways, and a real state of right, or coexistence in between them. So it's been approved, this reform in the Senate that is going to be publicized, and as is announced, they're going to be showing a controversy, of course, to declare this unconstitutional, this law. This corresponds, of course, to the judicial power, in particular the Supreme Court of Justice. So then, there's nothing really that is really legal at the end of the day. This is what really has to prevail all the time. That wasn't there before. Because before,
siempre lo he estado diciendo,
I've always been saying it,
se respetaba la Constitución
the Constitution was respected
en la forma, pero se violaba en el
in the
fondo.
ways, but in
Desde la
the
época de
end,
Porfirio
it
Díaz
was violated.
hasta
From Porfirio Díaz to
el sexenio
the
pasado.
last presidency.
Habían o hay tres poderes,
There were three
pero en
powers,
realidad el poder de los poderes
but
era el
really the
ejecutivo,
power of it all was the executive,
del presidente.
was the president.
Los otros dos
The
poderes
rest three, the other two, were
apéndices
appendix
del ejecutivo.
of the executive.
Cuando la Suprema Corte
When was it that the Supreme Court
se oponía
was against
a una decisión
to any decision
del presidente?
of the president?
Acuérdense cuando quisieron
Remember when they wanted
gobierno de
to, in the Calderón government,
que se investigara a fondo y se castigara
when
a los responsables
the investigation was called for and then to punish the owners of the ABC Guarderia, the nursery? Calderón supposedly intervened. Secretary of Government, they even threatened
Saldívar,
Saldívar,
y al
the
final
minister, and at the end of the day,
no se aprobó
nothing was approved.
la propuesta del ministro Saldívar.
The proposal of Minister
Estamos
Saldívar.
hablando
And we're talking about
de la pérdida de vidas
the loss of life here.
de niñas, de niños, un asunto lamentable.
Girls,
completamente.
babies, boys.
Ahí estaba
Real
el
sad
ministro
situation.
Cosío, que seguramente va a estar el
Minister
domingo
Cosío was
protestando.
there. That surely he's going to be there on Sunday
Corruptazo.
protesting.
Conservador,
Corrupting guy, conservative guy,
hipócrita,
hypocrite,
como son la mayoría de ellos.
like all the majority of them.
Entonces ahora no.
And today, they're not now. This is not done anymore.
Y esto pues nos debe de
And this, of course,
llenar de
has to
orgullo,
fills us up with pride.
porque hay un verdadero Estado de Derecho.
Because there's really a state of rights.
Pues suele olvidarse
But it's seldom forgotten, all of this, of course.
y quieren confundir
And they want to confuse people.
y manipular a la gente. Agarran esto como bandera, lo he venido
And of
diciendo.
course, manipulate.
Cómo pues defienden a Calderón y
How they
defienden
defend Calderón.
a García Luna, ¿no? Para eso va a ser la manifestación en contra nuestra. No se pronuncian.
They don't pronounce themselves
Si acaso
in favor of
Calderón,
García Luna. Maybe Calderón, but that only,
con
of course, with
un
a
planteamiento ofensivo para las víctimas,
offensive,
completamente, ¿no? Una falta de respeto a las víctimas. Es decir, lo hice, ordené
approach. Total
que se
disrespect
usara
to the
toda la fuerza del
families.
Estado,
I did it,
y lo
and
volvería a hacer,
I've done it, and I would do it again, he says,
al estilo de
to use the power of the armed forces.
Bueno, ¿y los muertos y los desaparecidos?
And what about the dead and the disappeared?
Por una decisión así, completamente
For a decision like that,
irresponsable,
completely irresponsible,
porque no había ni
because
siquiera
there wasn't even
un diagnóstico,
a diagnostic,
un programa,
a program, even a plan.
Nada.
Nothing.
Era
And that was, of course,
el uso de la fuerza. Fuego.
fire.
Y miren lo que ocasionaron.
And look what they caused. And besides,
La inmoralidad
the immorality
de decir, no me va a
to
temblar
say,
la mano,
oh, I'm
vamos
not
a
going to be
usar la
afraid
fuerza.
to use the
por el otro
force, and on the other hand,
Dedicar
dedicates
toda la Secretaría
all
de
Secretary
Seguridad
of
Pública
Public Security
a proteger
to protect
a un grupo de delincuentes
a delinquency group
a cambio de sobornos.
in exchange of bribes
Y no dar una explicación de cómo
and not even give an explanation as to how
tanto tiempo. Y lo
this was
convirtió
all kept up,
en su mano derecha.
and he turned it into his right hand.
Claro, debería de explicar, pero no eso que
Of course, they should explain
yo
that
soy
to us,
valiente
but not all this about, oh, I'm
este,
brave and
enfrenté
I
a los
confronted
delincuentes y los
the
voy a seguir
delinquency
enfrentando.
and I'm going to keep fighting them,
Y no hablar
and not even speak
de cómo
of how
nombró a García Luna y los
he
sostuvo 6
named
años.
Garcia Luna and he kept them on
Y si sabía o no
for
sabía
6 years, and if he knew or he didn't
de lo
know
que hacía García Luna
about what Garcia Luna was doing,
y los vínculos de gobierno a gobierno
and the vinculation from government to government
entre Estados Unidos y México
in between the US and Mexico
llevar a
to
cabo
accomplish
operativos como el Rápido y Furioso
operations such as Fast and Furious,
y
as well as
la vinculación
the vinculation
de las agencias
of the
estadounidenses
US agencies
en el país, sobre todo
in the country, above all,
prácticamente la entrega de la Secretaría de
practically
Marina
the providing of the Marines Secretary to the agencies of the US,
que era una secretaría
that this was a secretary that would take care of the ports,
de la protección de las costas,
of
y de
the
repente
protection of the
se
coasts,
convierte
and then all of a
en
sudden
secretaría
turns into
con equipos de élites entrenados en
a
Estados
secretary
Unidos
with elites trained in the US
para enfrentar
to confront
a las bandas
the
del narcotráfico
narco-trafficking gangs
con equipos de
with
los más
equipment of
sofisticados
the
entregados
best
por el gobierno de Estados Unidos
turned into
que
from
entraban
the US that would
y
come in
salían.
and go as they wished.
hacían lo que querían en el país,
They do whatever they wanted in the
violando
country,
la soberanía de México.
violating the sovereignty of
¿Por
Mexico.
qué no explica todo eso?
Why doesn't he explain none of that?
Hay muchísimas cosas, o sea,
There's a lot of other things.
el papel de los embajadores de Estados
The
Unidos en México,
ambassador roles
cuando
in
asesinan
Mexico when they
en
killed
Morelos,
in Morelos, for example,
a un Beltrán Leiva,
to this Beltran Leiva guy,
Arturo Beltrán Leiva, y
Arturo
que
Beltran Leiva,
eh,
and that's
hacen todo un espectáculo,
they
un
do
montaje,
this
llevan
whole
periodistas,
spectacle, this
vulneran
they take these journalists
el
and
cuerpo de
they
que fue asesinado,
move the body
toman
around and
fotos
they
con
take pictures
billetes
with
de dólares,
dollar
todo el
bills
cuerpo.
on there.
Declara
they declare the ambassador of the U.S.
de ese entonces de que sí se podía confiar en la
declares
Marina,
that we could
no en
confide
el ejército.
in the Marines, but not in the Army.
Y a la semana,
And then a week later,
allá en Paraíso, Tabasco,
in
asesinan
Tabasco,
a toda una familia
they killed this entire
de uno de los
family
marinos que
of one of the
participan
Marines that were
en ese operativo.
participating in that
Y al poco tiempo
operation, and not too
se va
long
el
after,
embajador.
the ambassador goes away.
¿A quién le pide Calderón
Who does Calderon ask
que se
for?
vaya el embajador? ¿Quién le concede
Calderon asks to get this
que
ambassador
cambie
to leave.
de
Who
embajador?
tells him to change the ambassador? Who
Por
approves it?
eso, el asunto de García Luna
So
va
then
a
the
ayudar
Garcia
más
Luna situation will help us
a que se conozca toda la
to
verdad
clarify all this,
para que nunca, jamás
so that this never ever
se
again
repitan
happens again.
estos hechos lamentables,
Sad situations,
ofensivos,
offensive,
vergonzosos,
shameless,
que tienen que ver
that have to do with
con la corrupción,
corruption,
con el entreguismo,
the turning in of,
con el mal gobierno. Imagínense
all the goods,
del
the bad
resultado
governments,
del juicio,
the results, out of the results from this trial,
queda ahí la
there's
información
all the
de que
information
manejaban el aeropuerto de la
that they
Ciudad
were
de México
managing the Mexico City airport
en 12 años.
in 12 years.
Si así manejaban este aeropuerto, imagínense los otros.
Imagine if they were operating in this main airport. Imagine the other ones.
Entonces no es poca cosa. Y ojalá y
So it's not just anything.
García Luna y su abogado
And hopefully that Garcia Luna and his lawyer
ayuden
can assist
para
to
que García Luna hable,
get Garcia Luna to talk.
no solo porque le
Not
podrían
only so that he can
reducir,
get his sentence reduced,
sí, el tiempo que va a estar,
the time he's going to be there in jail,
sino por la salud pública, lo que contribuye
but rather than
a que
that,
se vaya purificando la vida pública en nuestro país.
so that the public life gets purified.
Ahora yo les quiero dejar una pregunta, ¿no? Porque así como ustedes preguntan, pues yo también.
Just as this question, just like as you guys ask, then I'll ask you
¿Ustedes
guys,
creen que si hubiese ganado
do you
Anaya,
think that if Anaya would have won,
Omit,
would he have admitted?
hubieran juzgado a García Luna?
Do you think Garcia Luna would have been in trial?
¿Verdad que sí han habido cambios?
There's some changes, right? We've seen them. We're seeing them now.
Estas cosas no se veían.
This has never been seen before, and we're moving forward.
Vamos a seguir avanzando en la
And we're going to
transformación.
keep
Y todos
advancing in the
los
transformation.
mexicanos,
And all the Mexicans,
hasta los opositores
and even the
del
opposing
bloque
ones
conservador,
of the
se han
conservative
portado
bloc,
muy bien,
have been behaving pretty good,
porque hemos llevado a cabo
because
esta
we've been
transformación
undertaking this transformation
sin violencia.
without violence.
Qué bueno, ¿no?
That's good,
Que
right?
haya polémica en los medios,
That
y
there's
que los periodistas, no los
questioning not the journalists,
Los dueños de
but
los
the
medios
owners of the media
estén en contra de nosotros.
are against us.
y que nos ataquen un día sí y el otro también.
And then they attack us one day and then the other one as well.
Qué bueno que se agrupen.
That's good that they group together. Calderon did this movement so that they can be here, and folks as well. And manifestation can happen. That's democracy. The plain and complete use of liberties. Liberty is not proclaimed. It's a fight for truth. And that they don't get tired. Keep fighting. Don't stop fighting for a working government for the peasants and popular. Because the fight in the opposition, of course, it calls for a lot of work. It's, of course, being there permanently, fighting for the ideals, for the principles, of course. There's nothing better than to fight for ideals, for just causes. And so, happiness. Are you going to go out of the country, city? Yes, I'm going to be supervising the Tren Maya. Julio Mar Gomez from Digital Pacifico. President, the TECMEC has multiple jobs to do, one of them in customs. In some occasions in the north border, they stop or impede the commercial environments with U.S. Mexico. In Chuparra, the prosecution and the legal offices and informatic and accountability departments prohibit the buses, even though that they have their permits from the transportation office. And I'll put as an example, one of the companies, Mexicana de Transportes de Personas, Greyhound Lines, Mexico, who have a shop, and it's actually in Tijuana, where that's where hundreds of buses are repaired and they pass through without any passengers, and you can see the good cooperation. But this Lieutenant Colonel Fernandez Martinez Garcia is notified, is the one in charge of aduanas in the customs office in Tijuana. How would we be able for the bureaucracy to be a little faster? And how Don Rafael Marinado, the leader of the customs office in Mexico, look at this problem? And I also have a page here, how the bureaucracy is so slow and doesn't allow the speedy environment that has to do with a lot of the situation of not being worked on. Yes, let me leave all the information you have, and we'll see it with the customs director so that this is taken care of. And the purpose of that is that the things get simplified, that this can be done at the same time to avoid contraband, and that is fast. Everything to do with the movements of all types of work and people. one of my partners, some of my partners took a picture with you. For example, we wanted to see that picture from here from the Fuente Presidencial, but unfortunately that was not shared, and I can ask your speaker to send us that information. Well, yeah, well, that's if we can get assistance on that. You weren't there? No, we didn't have a picture, but... Well, come on over here. Take the picture right now. Oh, so you didn't get a picture? All right, well, come here. Take a picture real quick. There you go. That's a precedent for you, huh? I don't see Putin doing that. Well, that's unexpected, the guy says. Well, thank you, Mr. President. On the other hand, what repercussions will there be derived from the Garcia Luna trial that the citizens don't get there or they vote less in the 24th on the presidential elections because the PAN, they don't see him as a party anymore, as a criminal organization? What repercussions will they have this Sunday and the next elections? Well, we don't know. Honestly, we don't know because it's always been that I've held up that let's not push back or look bad onto a conservative bloc. It would be a grave error underestimates what they represent. They're being financed with for the rich, by the rich. They have a lot of money. They sometimes count with a financing of external governments, foreign governments. They have on their side the majority of the media outlets. They also have with the backing of the intellectual organic people, and from there on a tradition of thinking, of the conservative thinking that comes from afar. It's always been there, conservatism. And so it's a mix in between economical interests, corrupt, and conservatives, who have internalized that doctrine. And this happens in Mexico and in the entire world, actually. And there's a type of fanatism, so they can be watching that Fox lied to them, that they told them that there was going to be a change and it was just more of the same. They could be sabiendo de que Felipe Calderón se robó la presidencia. That they can approve that Felipe Calderón took the presidency, or that his Secretary of Public Security was involved with the criminal organizations, And
no les
them,
importa.
they didn't care. They don't care.
O sea, para ellos,
But for them,
el que está haciendo malas cosas
the person that is doing the things wrong
es AMLO,
is AMLO, me,
autoritario,
authoritarian,
populista.
populist.
Que no habla inglés.
That he doesn't speak English from the towns.
Entonces, así es. Y así será. Y
That's
ya
how it
lo
is.
que, pues hay que procurar es que
Calling me a
esa
village
franja
guy, and
de la
what we need to
sociedad,
procure is that the
pues no siga
that sector of the society
ampliándose.
doesn't keep growing.
Por eso es importante impulsar la
That's why
renovación
it's
de las
important
conciencias, informar, orientar, concientizar, para seguir cambiando
a hick, they would call me.
mentalidades.
But we
Y
need
eso se
to
logra.
finish that to be able to
Y se ha avanzado
switch.
muchísimo en México. Si no fuese por eso, yo no estaría aquí.
If it wasn't because of that, I wouldn't be here. If that changed.
Puede venir cualquier persona
Anybody else could
de
show
otro país
from another
y
country
ver los medios de
and
información,
look at the information in the
revisa
media.
los periódicos, o
Goes
habla
through the
con
newspapers
los intelectuales,
or
le pide
speak
opinión a
to the
Claudio,
intellectuals and
Aguilar
ask for Clause's opinion,
o habla
Aguilar
con los
Camille's opinion, or
periodistas más
speaks to the
afamados,
most famous
los corresponsales
journalists here, the
extranjeros.
foreign
Entonces, tienen esa opinión, ¿no? De que estamos haciendo
people,
las
and
cosas
they
mal.
have the opinion that we're doing things wrong.
En cambio,
And on the other hand,
la mayoría de la gente
the majority of the people
pues piensa distinto.
thinks differently now.
Entonces, eso hay que
So then
seguir
we got to keep working on that,
promoviendo.
promoting that.
Y no enojarse ni perder mucho
And
tiempo.
not get mad and not lose
Y
any
querer
time.
convencer
And try to convince
a gente
people that
que ya
are frankly
adoptó,
has adopted,
ya ha decidido no cambiar.
has decided not to change.
A esos hay que decirle, sigue usted su camino, ahí la lleva, va bien.
To those, we need to tell them, yeah, you're doing good. Go
No se
ahead.
detenga.
Keep on thinking that. Don't stop.
Pero los jóvenes,
But the youth,
hasta de esas familias,
even if those families,
sí ya están
they're
pensando de
really
otra manera.
switching their thinking.
Y esos sí, porque tienen una mente más fresca. Es como un libro en blanco, un cuaderno en blanco,
And there was this
donde se puede avanzar mucho. Para que tengan
thing
un
where we can
pensamiento,
advance more so they can think
pues más humano,
a
más
more
fraterno,
humanitarian, more fraternal way of
no
thinking
egoísta,
for the young people, not
no
egocentric,
clasista, no
not a classic,
racista,
not racist,
que no odien,
that they don't hate
que
anybody,
lleguen a la conclusión
that they
de que
get to the
solo
conclusion
siendo
that
buenos podemos
only
ser
being
felices,
good, that we can be happy,
y que se alejen lo más que puedan del dinero,
and to get as far away as possible from the
que no
money,
conviertan al dinero en su Dios.
not to turn money into their God.
Todo eso
All of that
ayuda,
helps.
que sean fraternos,
that they're
que le tengan amor al
helpful to
prójimo.
each other, to love each other.
Sí se puede.
It's possible.
Más cuando nosotros, los mexicanos,
And even when us Mexicans are fortunate,
como también sucede en otros
fortunate
pueblos,
when it happens in other
tenemos
places, in other towns,
una gran reserva de valores
we have a great reserve of
culturales, morales,
values,
espirituales,
cultural, moral, spiritual,
por nuestras culturas
because of our cultures
que vienen de tiempos remotos
that come from far away,
y son profundas sus raíces.
and their roots are deep.
Entonces sí, hay que
And then
seguir
so,
adelante,
yes,
pero no
let's keep
menospreciar
going, but not to minimize
al conservadurismo,
conservatives,
porque son
because they're
bastantes.
there are quite many of them.
Gente, son millones.
They're not a few, they're millions.
Nada más con que ya no sigan creciendo.
Just as long as they don't keep growing,
No regresen por sus sueños,
and not to come back for
porque
their
entonces sí acabarían con todo.
old public
Porque
places,
son muy ambiciosos y muy corruptos.
because they're very ambitious, very corrupt,
Y no les importa el pueblo.
and the people that they don't care about, they don't have love for the people.
Eso es lo que puedo decir, o sea, y que cada quien libremente.
And that each of them, in liberty, decide.
Estamos viviendo, no nos podemos quejar.
We're living, and we can't complain.
Interesantes.
Interesting times.
Yo diría
I would say
momentos estelares. En la historia
stellar
de los
times in the times and in the times of our country.
Esto no pasaba antes.
This didn't happen before.
Era muy plano todo.
Everything was so plain, nothing moved.
Y lo que había era
What it was,
mucha simulación.
there's a lot of
Imagínense
simulation.
la gran simulación que
Just imagine the
significó
great simulation that meant the elections of 2000.
pierde el PRI,
PRI loses,
entra el PAN,
PAN comes in,
y cuántos pensando, ¿no?
and how
Que
many
iban a
people
cambiar las
thinking that the ways were going to
cosas.
change,
Fue
that things were going to be new.
gato-pardismo.
It
Eso consiste en
was
que las cosas en apariencia cambian para seguir igual.
a colored cat, thinking
Al
that
grado de
things
que
would change to
el
the
domingo
degree
están
where
agarrados de la mano
on Sunday they're going to be walking hand on hand, folks,
con,
with,
¿cómo se llama el PRI?
what's the name of the PRI guy?
Alejandro Moreno,
Alejandro Moreno, is it?
Chong,
Then Chong,
Claudia Ruiz Massieu,
Claudia Ruiz Massieu,
Goldenberg,
Aguilar Camín,
Krause,
Krause,
Marco Cortés,
Marco Cortés, Loret de Mola,
etcétera, etcétera, ahí todos,
etc., etc., and
agarraditos de la mano.
all of them holding hands.
Agárrense de las manos. Muy bien.
I'm not going to translate that. All right, next.
Presidente, muy buenos días, Rafael.
Good morning, Mr. President. Rafael Ramirez from Sol de Mexico and Organization of Editorial Mexican Editorials. Ask you, the Tribunal of the Federation Judicial, the decision to get the new president of the INE would be confirmed if only women to guarantee the guarantee of gender. What do you say if the one that comes up is a woman replacing Lorenzo Córdoba? Well, I think that's good. I think that's great. One woman guarantees better the democracy? Well, yeah, of course. They usually are more
honestas,
honest,
más
more
responsables,
responsible,
más justas,
even more just than men.
Es muy difícil, por ejemplo, son pocas las. Bueno,
It's really difficult. They're a little bit. Well, I'm not going to say it, but
son una garantía las mujeres.
they're a guarantee. Do you think Carla Humphrey would be in line to be the successor of Lorenzo Cordova? Well, that it's not for me to decide, and they need to decide in the Congress and then the counselors of the INE. But what is that it's a fact that women are responsible and they're honest. When I was chief of government, the majority of the cabinet were women. And I think maybe 14 out of 14, there was 8. And right now it's the same. Almost half of my staff are women. Very good. Very, very good. And we have contributed, since we've been in the opposition, to open spaces that would not stopped for women to participate in politics, and in all cases in public life, we contribute now to say that the legislation, half of it are women and half are men. Us. We were the precursors of that movement. And so, yes, we are totally in accordance with but not only due to gender, but they come up with a lot. They bring a lot to this. Do you think it would be obligational for it to be women? Yes, when you're speaking about liberties and you're talking about gender equality, is looking for equilibrium. Only that before, men would be taking over all posts and positions. It's still happening. So then, we need to keep promoting gender participation. But it's not only women's participating in public realm. Let's take into account that the majority of Mexicans are women. And that the equality of women, we need to fight in the fields, in the warehouses, in the in the schools, everywhere.
No sé si nos puedan enviar la información, si la tienen actualizada, sobre.
I'm not sure if we can get us the information. Maybe Ariana could have about the elderly, of disability, of grants. The majority, of course, of beneficiaries are women. In the well-being programs, even in the program Sembrando Vida. Now that you're mentioning that, there's feminists that say that resources have been taken away from women to permit them to work in the major works. It's part of that is part of the misinformation and the lies. In the contrary,
Además, para que se tenga una idea.
Just so you can get an idea,
Este año,
this
como
year
nunca
alone, as
en la
ever,
historia,
in
se están
history,
destinando 600 mil
there are
millones de pesos
600,000 million pesos destined
a programas de
to
bienestar
programs of
para
well-being
25 millones de
for
hogares.
25 million homes.
Y la mayoría de eso va a mujeres.
And the majority of that goes to women.
El otro día,
Other day, for
este
example, I
periódico
was
conservador,
this
El Reforma,
newspaper, El Reforma,
un boletín del
conservative
conservadurismo,
newspaper, puts on a note,
hablaba de que
and it was talking about
las pensiones de adultos mayores
pensions of the elderly
le quitaban recursos
would take away
a otros programas.
resources to other
Entonces,
programs. That isn't true.
se incrementó el apoyo a los adultos mayores
The
en 25%
assistance for the seniors
y se va a seguir incrementando.
was
Otros
incremented,
25 para el
and
año
it's going to
próximo.
keep incrementing for another 25%.
Pero también se incrementó
As well, we
el
incremented
presupuesto para educación,
the
para
budget
salud,
for education, for health,
para becas,
for rent,
para Sembrando Vida,
for Sembrando Vida,
para la
scholarships,
búsqueda de desaparecidos, para
the
derechos
search
humanos.
for the missing.
¿Por qué tenemos para incrementar?
Why do we have
Porque ya
that
no hay
budget?
corrupción.
Because corruption is going down.
Entonces, afortunadamente, no tenemos problema de falta de presupuesto,
And so, fortunately, we don't have
porque era mucho lo que se
a lack of
robaba,
budget. Because there was a lot that was
más
being
de lo
stolen.
que
More than
imaginamos.
we can imagine.
Nosotros que constantemente estábamos
All of us, that we are
sosteniendo que el
constantly
principal problema de
holding
México
up that
era
the
la corrupción.
principal problem of Mexico was
Cuando
corruption.
llegamos al gobierno,
When we got
nos
here
dimos cuenta,
and we noticed,
nos quedamos cortos.
we were short. My case, for example,
Yo desde siempre, y
since
ahí
ever,
están
I've
mis
been
libros
thinking in my books, you can read it.
de constancia. Siempre hablé del
I've
tema.
always spoke about that.
Y siempre dije, la fórmula
And I always said, the formula
sacar a México
to take Mexico out of
es acabar con la corrupción,
the lacking is finish the corruption
hacer un gobierno austero.
and make
Eso, nada más.
a government that
Decía yo en
is
campaña,
dedicated to
que
saving.
diga ¿cuál es el plan? Y que se los diga
Do you want me to tell you what the plan is?
parado en un solo pie,
And the longest I can be standing in one foot,
cuando no hablo de corrido,
even though I don't
y
speak
me ponía
fast,
así, acabar con la corrupción.
and I would be in one leg saying, finish with corruption. That's the plan.
Y no saben el resultado tan
And austerity in governments. And you don't know, you don't have an idea of the
exitoso.
results. How good that is.
La importancia que tiene
The importance
en no
that
permitir la corrupción. Porque no es un asunto nada más de índole moral, sino es
it's not about
muchísimo
moral.
el dinero que
It's
se
a lot of
libera
money that is freed
para el desarrollo del país.
for the development of the country.
Pero si hacen una obra como era antes, que costaba
And
100
if they
millones y
do
la
some
cobraban
work
en 300, en 500,
and it costs 100,000
y ni siquiera la terminaban.
million, but they charged 300,000 and they didn't even finish it.
Si se robaban 80,000 barriles diarios de gasolinas,
If they stole 80,000 barrels of
si
gas,
los banqueros y las
or
grandes empresas
if the bankers and the great
no pagaban
companies
impuestos,
didn't pay taxes,
porque eso es corrupción,
because that was corruption, of course,
pues entonces
Well, then
no alcanzaba el presupuesto más que
budget wasn't enough, but only to maintain this elite, a golden elite of bureaucrats in service of the sacking team. But if we finish that, how we've been doing, just imagine how much money, just alone, the bill that we saved in economical terms, of course, for not constructing the airport in Toluca, in Texcoco. There are facts that it was going to cost 300,000 million. Estimated budget. Of course, if another candidate would have won the presidency, well then for sure that would have turned into a endless barrel, as other things happen. But let's accept 300,000 million. The airport had to close down, the current airport, and Santa Lucia airport as well, because that's how the plan was. They were going to finish it in 2025. That was the plan.
Como dijimos, es un acto de corrupción monumental.
As we said, it was a monumental corruption act. And I said if we win, we weren't going to finish up the airport. They rushed and they hired these companies and gave upfront money so that when we arrived, as it so happened, it would have been a part of the budget would have been already set, thinking that being it that way, we weren't going to have any other way to go. And the budget was, some of it was engaged. In Texcoco, there's a that is a zone that they chose the worst place to do it, because they didn't care. There's this muddy location. What they wanted was their money. They wanted to turn the old airport in some type of Santa Fe style. Since they were going to close it, they were going to plan an avenue to the new airport, and set aside they were going to turn it into stores, departmental stores or services. And there was going to be the sinking, commercial living quarters, a whole development.
La gente, mediante una consulta, dice no.
People said no through a survey, and we were saved.
Porque pagamos los 100,000 millones, no le quedamos a deber a nadie.
We paid the 100,000 million, and it cost us 35,000 million. The new airport. First class, for 300 that they had estimated. How much did we save? 125,000 million. And the international current airport didn't close. In the contrary, Santa Lucia was still open. And now is Felipe Ángeles. but there's
con
a
todas las
military airport with all the
y
installations
un aeropuerto civil,
and a civil airport,
y es un complejo
and it's a great big complex,
habitacional
inhabited
con
location,
oficinas, cuarteles,
with
hospitales,
offices, quartels,
escuelas,
schools,
centros comerciales,
housing,
hotel,
commercial centers,
museos.
hotels,
¿No ha sido lenta
museums.
la transición, el despegue del AIFA?
Sí, sí, porque han habido pues
Well,
muchos
hasn't it
obstáculos.
been
Bueno,
slow,
desde la
the
construcción,
starting of the new
lloviendo los
airport?
amparos,
Of
y
course, there
estos que vienen el
was
domingo.
stops on it. Those are the people that are coming in on
De
Sunday.
Claudio X González y de Cosío y de todos estos.
Claudio X Gonzalez and all these people. Yeah.
Pero aún así, como se hizo bien y en poco tiempo,
But even so, and it was done
se inauguró el
correctly,
21 de marzo del año pasado,
a lot of
pues
protections were
tenemos
given.
mucho tiempo para que se vaya consolidando.
We have a lot of time to get this consolidated.
Ya me estaban dando
And I was already getting
un anticipo de un análisis económico
a upfront money of an analysis,
que
economical
se estima
analysis that is estimated
para diciembre
for
de este
December
año
of this year
que el aeropuerto
that the
va a ser
airport will be
autosuficiente, o sea,
autosufficient, meaning
su
it's going to
punto
have its
de equilibrio
equilibrium
y
made,
ya va a empezar a obtener utilidades.
and it's going
O
to
sea,
start obtaining utilities.
ya no vamos a tener
We're not going to
que
have
destinar presupuesto
to destine any budget
en diciembre. Imagínense
starting
eso,
December. So
tan
imagine that.
importante. ¿Mande? No sé, no sé.
Sorry,
Va
well, I'm
creciendo.
not
Voy
sure.
precisamente el martes
I'm going to be on Sunday.
voy a recibir
I'm going to
a
receive
un
a
primer avión de carga
first cargo airplane
de esta empresa
from this
DHL.
company
Se han
DHL
portado muy bien
that has behaved really
los
well, and
directivos de esta empresa.
the directors of
Nos
this
ayudaron
company,
cuando
they helped us
las
when
vacunas
the vaccines,
y fueron de los primeros
and they were the first
en
ones
decir nosotros nos mudamos
to
para
say we'll move
el
to
aeropuerto
the new airport,
Felipe Ángeles y ahora van a
Felipe
estar ya,
Ángeles, and now they're going to be,
todas las empresas
every company is going to be
porque van a
be there because
recibir
they're going to be receiving
la carga
the
desde el
cargo
aeropuerto Felipe
from
Ángeles,
the
que tiene pues
airport Felipe Ángeles that has
bodegas, tiene todas las instalaciones,
all the installations needed,
nos va a ayudar mucho
warehouses. It's going to help us a
para que no
lot
haya
to
tanto tráfico en la zona
not
del
have
aeropuerto
a
actual.
lot of traffic in the
O sea,
current
ahí va.
airport. So it's going.
Ojalá y
Hopefully
en otras
that's
obras
in the other works.
yo hubiese
I would have
tenido el tiempo, ¿no? Para
had the
dejarlas
time
consolidadas. Por
to
ejemplo,
leave them consolidated.
tocar
For example, I'm going to get to
dejar funcionando
leave
la nueva refinería de Dos Bocas.
Refinería, the refinery of Dos Bocas. I'm going to have enough time to see it operating. And not only that,
Que ya modernizadas las 6
I hope
refinerías
that the 6 refineries are
que
modernized
se tienen
that we have,
y ya cuando menos operando una
and
de
at
las
least
grandes
have
plantas
them, one of the biggest plants operating
convertir el combustóleo en
to
gasolinas,
convert combustibles
llaman
into
coquizadoras.
gasolines that are called
otra en proceso.
coquizadoras, another one in
Ya
process.
voy a poder dejar una producción
I'm going to be able to leave a production line or cooking machines
de 1.900.000
and
a 2 millones de
around
barriles diarios después
2,900,000 to 3,000,000
1.600.000
barrels a day after we received 1,600,000 and so on,
porque destinamos dinero a la exploración
because we destined production, exploration of
y pues
wells,
eso
And that,
va
of
bien.
course, is
En
going
el caso
good.
del Tren Maya,
In the case of
ahí
Tren
sí
Maya,
estamos con el tiempo encima, tenemos que terminar este
of
año
course, Tren Maya, we need to finish it right
y
away
ahí sí,
because
pues, no son tortas ahogadas
it's not easy
ni
there.
tamalitos de chipilín,
Of Chipilín
pero
tamales.
estamos aplicándonos a fondo para inaugurar en diciembre y tener 6
But
meses
we are working
de diciembre a
to be
septiembre
able
que
to
termine
have from December to September
para empezar
to start.
a consolidar la operación. Vamos a dejar
We're going to be able to
contratos de mantenimiento
maintenance
hacia adelante,
contracts.
5 años pagado el mantenimiento y vamos a dejar
We're going to be
recursos
leaving even the
para que no se
maintenance
detenga
and
la
resources so the operation doesn't stop.
Todo eso
All of
es
that
lo que estamos contemplando. En el caso de los programas de
is all that we're
bienestar
contemplating. In the case of the
están
well-being,
consolidados,
it's more than consolidated.
ya vamos a tener
We're going to
también, que eso
have
es importante, en julio
something else that is really important in
los
July.
2,700
The
sucursales del Banco del Bienestar.
2,700 locations of bank. It's going to be the bank with more
Actualmente el banco
locations
que
in
tiene más
Mexico.
sucursales
Right now, the one that has the most is
tiene 1,900. Ya nosotros
1,900.
tenemos operando
We already have operating
sucursales del Banco del Bienestar
locations of the Bienestar Bank,
1,400.
1,400.
Tenemos construidas ya
But we have constructed
como 2,300,
like
pero operando
2,300,
1,400,
but
porque
operating
no solo es la
1,400.
construcción, son los cajeros, es la
Because it's not
instalación
only the location, it's
del
the
internet,
cashiers, the internet
pero las
installation.
2,700
But those
puede llegar
2,700,
a ser 3,000,
that could be even up to
las
3,000,
tenemos que tener ya
we have to
operando
have them
en
operating
julio.
in July.
De modo que
So that
vamos a tener un año
we're going to have a whole year
para consolidarlas.
to
Porque
consolidate them.
también eso
Because that too
implica
implies
pues mucha planeación.
a lot of
Imagínense,
planning.
dispersar
Just imagine we
por el Banco de
disperse
Bienestar 600,000 millones de pesos
600,000 million
a
pesos
25 millones de beneficiarios.
to 25 million
Y no es
beneficiaries.
que llegue el adulto mayor a la sucursal del
And it's
banco
not
con su
the
tarjeta
elderly comes in
y
with
que no
their
hay dinero.
card. Oh, well, there's no money.
Que
Sorry.
ven la semana
Or
que
come
entra.
back next week or something.
Ahora se demoró.
Oh, now it's it took
No.
forever to get here. Not anymore.
Hacienda
The
tiene que
IRS
tener su calendario,
has to have their calendar
disponibilidad de recursos
of availability of
para
resources
todos los programas de bienestar
for all the well-being
y entregar a la
programs
tesorería de la
and turn it
federación
into
a
the
tiempo.
federation on
La
time
tesorería de la federación
and on time
enviar al
with
Banco
the
del
treasury, send all that to the well-being bank.
Bienestar a las 2,700
And the
sucursales. Es un promedio de
200,000
200 millones
location, that's a
de
thing where
pesos por sucursal.
2 million
Estamos
pesos
hablando de
per
sucursales
location.
en la sierra,
And we're talking about locations
en los
in
lugares más
the rural
apartados,
areas,
porque
the
el
mountain
propósito
areas,
es
because the purpose
que la gente
is that the
que
people
recibe los beneficios
that
no
receive
tenga
those benefits don't
que
have to
trasladarse
move
hasta las ciudades o hasta
to the
donde
big
hay
cities or
sucursales
where
bancarias.
there's
Entonces,
banking locations.
este,
And so
sí vamos avanzando
we're advancing on that,
y vamos a poder
and we're going to be able to finish.
el transísmico también, el transísmico ya tenemos
The
los
transismic
contratos.
locations
Es muy
and
interesante.
the contracts we
No sé
already
si
have
tienes
is really
un
interesting.
plano
I'm not
del-
sure if you
no
have
solo
a
del Tren Maya, sino
map, but not only of the Tren Maya,
Ya que
but
habla del transísmico,
Now that you're talking about transseismic, Marine Secretary has given to known through these press conferences that has difficulty advancing in the convincing of the route because there's settlings and there's problems with the organized crime in El Sol de Mexico. We document what is said by the Secretary of Marines about this difficulty to be able to advance in these routes. If you could explain to us what is happening there.
Pues es que
Well,
esas vías estaban
those
abandonadas.
routes were abandoned.
Es muy interesante que se
It's really
sepa
interesting that it
que
needs to
con
be known
el modelo
that with the neoliberal model
todo
or
se privatizó.
Neo-Porfirio Diaz,
Los
everything
ferrocarriles de pasajeros.
was finished. They finished up the railway
Estos
system,
van a venir el domingo.
the ones that are coming on Sunday,
Que aplaudieron
that applaud
esas políticas entreguistas.
those political ways of turning in the country,
Pero
turning it over.
el sureste no les importaba
But
ni
the
siquiera para robar.
southeast didn't even care about the
No volteaban
southeast
a ver
to
al sureste ni
to
para
steal
robar.
anything. They didn't even turn and look at it to
Y así,
steal from it. And just like that,
De manera
in
milagrosa,
a miraculous way, it so happens that Cedillo
concesiona
takes on
lo que
everything
tenía que ver con ferrocarriles
that has to do with
Pero de
railways
hacia el norte.
from here to the north. That's what
Como
Cedillo
20,
did.
25,000 kilómetros
Like 20,000
de
25,000 kilometers of railway.
todo lo que se había hecho
Everything that was done
desde Juárez,
since
que fue el que
Juárez,
inició
that was the one that
primer
started
primer
the
ferrocarril
first train
de México a
from Mexico
Veracruz,
to
que
Veracruz.
inauguró 1973,
Was inaugurated in
el presidente
1973.
Sebastián Lerdo de Tejada.
President Sebastián Lerdo de
Gran
Tejada,
fiesta.
big
Primer
party there.
ferrocarril,
First railway.
que lo hizo el
That
gobierno
whom did it,
y luego lo privatizó. Y luego
the
lo
government
rescató
did it, and then they privatized it, and then they rescued it like a for
con el
proa stuff.
porfiriato.
Because in the Porfirian days,
Todas las
they rescued
compañías
all the companies,
ferrocarrileras extranjeras.
all the railways, foreign railways.
Bueno, por eso hablo de
Well, that's why
neoporfirismo,
I'm speaking about
porque
neo-Porfirianism.
aplicaron del 83
From what they applied from 83 to 18,
una copia
it was a copy
de lo que hizo Porfirio Díaz,
of what Porfirio Diaz did.
que entregó las minas, que entregó el petróleo, que entregó
That
los
turned in the
ferrocarriles,
mines, the oil, the
que entregó
railway,
las tierras. Exactamente
turned
lo
in
mismo.
the land. Exactly the same
Esclavizó al
thing.
pueblo.
That he turned into slavery, the people.
Bueno, de aquí
Well, from here to here,
no les interesó. Lo
they
único
didn't care about it.
era
The only
esa
thing they
puntita.
wanted was that little
Cancún.
dot right there, Cancun.
De aquí para acá,
From here
con
to
excepción de
here,
Cancún,
with the exception of Cancun,
en todo el periodo neoliberal,
in the
no hubo
entire
crecimiento
neoliberal
económico.
period, there wasn't any economical growth.
Fue menos cero
It was minus zero
de crecimiento.
of
Entonces,
zero growth.
no saben el gusto que me dio
And you have no idea the
la
happiness that I got
alegría que me produjo el enterarme
that produced by knowing
esta línea de Coatzacoalcos a Salina Cruz.
and this line from Coatzacoalcos to Sanidad
No
Cruz,
la habían concesionado.
they didn't do anything to it.
Ni
They didn't
esta
sell it
de aquí,
for
de
degrowth.
Aztepec, a Tapachula.
From Metepec to Tapachula as well. They didn't do anything to it.
Esto.
All that.
Pero tampoco
But as well,
habían concesionado
they
de
didn't consent the Coatzacoalcos from
a Palenque.
to Palenque.
Habían dejado abandonadas las líneas.
They left it alone.
Y tampoco de Palenque
And then from Palenque to
a Valladolid.
Valladolid.
El antiguo ferrocarril del sureste.
The old Southeast
Que se
Railway
había inaugurado en los años
that had
50
inaugurated in 1950s
del siglo pasado.
of the last decade, 1850s.
Antes del ferrocarril
Because even before the railway,
no habían carreteras.
there weren't any roads in the Southeast.
Todo era por barco.
It was all through barks
Eran los
or
tiempos en que
boats.
vivir cerca del mar
Embarking
era
railway
vivir cerca del
was
mundo.
not existent. Because they said living close to the sea was living close to the
Todo
world.
esto, cabotaje.
All this.
Y los ríos
And the
eran como las grandes autopistas.
lakes were like the highways.
Empezó la carretera
And then
después
the
del
road
ferrocarril
started.
para comunicar al sureste. Que comenzó la carretera del sureste.
That all this was started with the Southeast roads. First the railway
Con Miguel Alemán y
with
luego
Miguel Alemán.
don Adolfo Ruiz Cortines empezó la construcción de la carretera. hacia el
Adolfo
sureste.
Cortines started the road to
Y
the
así se
southeast,
empezó, ¿no?
and then
Comunicar.
that's how it started communicating with the rest of the
Entonces, ahora, ¿qué
Quintana Roo
estamos
area
haciendo?
with this road. And now what we're doing
Se
is
está rehabilitando
rehabilitating
esta línea
this line here
la hicieron desde la época de
that they
Porfirio
started doing it since Porfirio Diaz
Díaz, esa línea de
times.
ferrocarril, en el Istmo.
This railway here in the
Hizo
ism.
Pearson,
Pearson
que
did
era
it.
un contratista
Who was the
contemporáneo de
contractor,
Porfirio Díaz, un inglés
the babied contractor
que también
for
era el
Porfirio
dueño de la
Diaz,
compañía petrolera El
Englishman that was also the
Águila, y
owner
fue el
of
que construyó
Águila,
también el aeropuerto,
and who was the one that
perdón,
constructed the
el puerto de
the
Coatzacoalcos y el de Veracruz,
Coatzacoalcos port
Pearson,
and
y
Veracruz,
también el de Salina Cruz,
and the one from Salina
porque
Cruz.
tenían desde Porfirio Díaz, desde antes,
Because they had since
el
Porfirio
proyecto
Diaz, even before
de
that project
comunicar
ready,
el Pacífico
to communicate the Pacific
con el Atlántico, porque
with
esta
the
es
Atlantic,
la
because
franja
this
más
is
angosta de
the
nuestro territorio, son 300 kilómetros.
way, the thinnest way, it's 300 kilometers.
Y en ese entonces, pues no
And in those
hubo
times,
éxito, a
there
pesar
wasn't
de
any
los puertos,
success,
y el
aside
ferrocarril,
that they
porque
chose
Asia no tenía
different locations because Asia
el desarrollo
didn't have the
que tiene en la
development
actualidad.
that they have now.
Tan es así
It's so
que ahora
so much so that
Manzanillo
Manzanillo, for example,
tiene
has more
movimiento de contenedores
container movements than Veracruz
que
does.
siempre fue el puerto
That was always the
más
port,
importante de
the
México.
most important port in Mexico.
Pero en los últimos tiempos es
But in the
Manzanillo
last days is Manzanillo
por Asia,
through
los
Asia.
puertos del Pacífico en los últimos
The Pacific
años, en
ports
las últimas décadas
in the last decades,
crecieron mucho. Entonces,
they started growing a
nosotros,
lot. So then,
¿qué estamos haciendo? Ah, bueno, aquí está.
all of
ya.
us, so what we're doing, here it is. So
Este es el primer
this is
plan.
the first plan
Hasta Palenque.
up to Palenque, Tapachula.
Es el rescate de esta línea.
As the rescue of
Estamos
this
hablando
line
como
here, we're talking
de
about
500 kilómetros,
500
son como
kilometers. This is
250,
about
de
250,
400 para acá,
400
son
here.
como 1000,
It's about
1200
1,200
kilómetros.
kilometers
De
from
Palenque,
Palenque,
Coatzacoalcos,
Coatzacoalcos,
Salina Cruz,
to
Ixtepec,
Salina Cruz, Ixtepec,
Tapachula.
and to Tapachula.
Entonces estamos ya rehabilitando
So we're rehabilitating
esta línea
this entire line here,
y esta, y ya estamos
and
por
then
iniciar
this
esta.
one we're starting to this one we're beginning to start it, to rehabilitate it.
¿Por qué hay el problema que tú
Why is
mencionas?
the problem that you're mentioning?
Porque como se abandonó,
Because since this
se
was
invadieron
abandoned, this
los
was
derechos de vía, de ferrocarril.
invaded the rights of way of the railway.
Mucha gente construyó
A lot of people
a la orilla
constructed
del ferrocarril.
right next to it in the railways.
Hay tramos en
There's
donde no hay
sections
problema,
where
pero hay
there's
otros
no
en donde
problems,
sí.
but
Y hay que ir hablando
there are some locations where there are
con las
problems.
gentes
We're
y
going to start
dándoles
speaking
opciones.
to the people and giving them options.
Se denuncia que los marinos están abriendo paso a
So Oaxaca, it's been
No,
denounced
no.
that they're opening up
Aquí lo que
the
pasa, este
ways by beating the
Este,
people
aquí se
to
ha
get out of
avanzado,
there.
pero aquí
Yes,
había
we've
un grupo
advanced. But there was a group
en
right
esta zona.
here in this zone.
eh, por Sayula
Somewhere around Sayula.
había un grupo de
There's this
esos,
group, one of those
que dominaban
that
de la
dominated
delincuencia
the
y que
delinquents,
obligaban a las empresas
and
a
that they
que
were
tenían que
obligate the
comprarles
companies
a
that they had
ellos
to purchase to
los
them.
materiales.
They
Un
had to
poco
buy the
como el
materials to
grupo
them.
este que
It's
está
almost like the
en el
group
aeropuerto
that is
de
in the
Texcoco,
airport in Texcoco right now,
que compraba los cerros
that they bought the hills around there,
y que obligaban a que
and
les
that they
compraran a ellos el
obligated them
material, pero
to
además tenían los
purchase the
camiones.
material, but they even had the trucks
Mafias,
for that.
mafias.
Mafias, these big mafias,
A imagen y semejanza de la
to
mafia que
image
dominaba en todo el país.
to the mafia that dominated the entire country.
O sea, sí,
For example,
los huachicoleros,
almost like the gasoline thieves, what you call it,
pequeños, medianos,
small, big
existían los
ones, existed
huachicoleros
the big huachicoleros
de dimensión nacional.
of national
Entonces,
dimension.
¿qué es
And
lo que se está
so,
haciendo?
what are we doing?
Pues
Well,
construyendo las obras.
we're constructing the works,
Aquí
but
había resistencias.
there was
Y luego
resistance, and
acá,
then
porque surgen
here,
dirigentes,
because
abogados,
there's these lawyers, leaders
que quieren sacar raja.
that want to
Y que
get
le dicen a
something
la
out of
gente,
it,
aun
and
cuando
they
ya la
tell the
vía
people,
está construida
even when
desde
the railway has already been constructed since
principios del siglo XX.
on the 20th century.
Entonces, te paro,
So they say, I'll
si
stop.
no me das tanto.
I'll stop the line here if you don't give me
Por ejemplo,
such amount.
Por aquí hay
For
un
example,
problema agrario
there's an
de los
agricultural
años
problem
70.
from the 70s.
Entonces nos dicen,
And so they
nos
tell us,
despojaron,
well, they took our
o
lands
la
out,
tierra nuestra
our
se le
lands
entregaron a otros,
was given to other people.
no te dejamos pasar
And then we're not going to let you
Si no nos
pass
pagas.
if you don't pay
las tierras.
the land.
Entonces todo eso
So then
lo estamos
all of that,
enfrentando, y les
we're
quiero
confronting
decir
it. And I
que
want to
cuando
tell
se
you
trata
that
de campesinos,
when it comes to
de gente
peasants
humilde,
and then people that are humble,
hacemos todo por ellos.
we
Todo,
do
todo,
everything
todo.
for them. Everything.
O sea, por ejemplo, aquí en
For example, here in
Tehuantepec,
Tehuantepec,
aquí estamos
we're
dándole terrenos y construyéndole sus viviendas
giving and constructing their living quarters to this
cerca de
group
Salina Cruz.
close to Salina Cruz.
Tenemos un terreno y se están haciendo viviendas. Hemos
We got
construido
this camp
muchísimas viviendas.
and constructing a lot of
para
living
la
quarters
gente.
for
Y
the
por
people
necesidad
that,
también,
because of
muchos por
necessity,
necesidad, se fueron asentando
were settling
cerca de las vías del ferrocarril y a
close to the
veces
railways
adentro.
and, of course, even in the railways.
Y así estamos resolviendo. Claro,
That's how we're resolving. But of course,
hay, pues, líderes
there's
corruptos
corrupt
que
leaders
dicen, no,
that say, no, well,
a invadir la
let's
vía,
invade the railway
ya que saben que se va a
now
llevar a
that they
cabo
know that we're doing
la
this
obra
works,
de rehabilitación
rehabilitation,
y vamos a pedir que nos paguen.
and we're going to ask them,
Afortunadamente la gente se ha portado muy bien.
they're going to ask them to get to pay them.
Y son muy
Fortunately,
pocos los casos que se dan.
the people have been behaving really well, and there's a few cases
Acá lo mismo.
about this, but here the same thing.
Pero aquí
But
lo que
here,
encontramos
what we found was
fue los intereses de otro tipo, los pseudoambientalistas, los que
different type of
tenían
interests. The
los grandes
pseudo
negocios. Aquí
environmentalists.
estaba, por ejemplo, aquí está Tulum, aquí estaba esta empresa, se llama Calica. Ellos tenían un banco,
They had a bank, for
tienen como
example.
13,000 hectáreas,
They had like 3,000
un banco de
acres.
materiales. Fíjense dónde.
A bank of materials
En la zona turística más bella de México y de
in the
las
most
zonas
beautiful
turísticas más bellas del
zones,
mundo.
touristic zones in the
Un
world.
banco de materiales
A bank of material
destruyendo todo.
destroying
Y
everything.
se llevan el material o se lo llevaban
And they took the material, or they took it,
a Estados Unidos
to the U.S.
para usarlo
to use
en
it
las carreteras.
in the roads.
Entonces, esto
So all
se
of
detuvo.
this stopped.
Luego, los de Scarech
The people from Scalich,
hicieron por acá,
right over here,
sí, por Valladolid, aquí,
by Valladolid,
toda una ciudad por abajo,
a whole subterranean city
con templos abajo,
with
aprovechando los ríos subterráneos.
old
Les
locations.
dieron permiso. No
They got the permits to do it, to have temples
hubo
there.
en ese tiempo
On those
ni
days,
un
there
solo
wasn't
ambientalista,
one environmentalist
ni un
saying
solo
anything.
amparo,
Not one.
ni una sola protesta. Bueno, tan es así que ustedes
Protection.
ni lo saben
It's so much so that you guys don't even know about it.
de que hay una ciudad aquí abajo,
That there's a city underneath there
cerca de Valladolid.
in Valladolid.
Un centro recreativo aquí.
A recreational
No lo saben.
center. Nobody knows.
Sin embargo, aquí nos llovieron
Nevertheless,
los
we
amparos.
had all the
Con paciencia,
protection claims
con el apoyo del pueblo.
with patience and the backing
O sea,
of
Juárez,
the
con el pueblo
people.
todo, sin el pueblo nada.
Like Juarez used to say, with the people,
Podemos
everything.
avanzar.
Without the people, nothing.
Y estamos
And we could
avanzando.
advance, and we are advancing.
Entonces,
So then,
sí vamos a terminar.
yes, we're going to be finishing
Todo, porque
everything, because
no solo es aquí, es llegar acá.
it's not only to be here, but
Es esto acá,
it's this,
bajar por acá. Miren,
go
todo
down and come down here,
esto, todo esto,
come down all through here,
irse aquí,
make a right here,
a Escárcega, así, y
Skárzaga,
regresar acá.
then go back down.
Nada más esto,
Just this section
de
right here,
Palenque
from
para acá,
Palenque
¿sí? La
to
vuelta
here,
completa,
the whole
son
turn,
1,554 kilómetros.
1,554
Es como
kilometers.
ir de aquí a
It's like from
Cancún.
here to Cancun.
Más esto.
And plus this here,
Sí, porque en el caso del transísmico
yes, because in the case of the
son
Transísmico,
puertos, son los dos puertos.
there are these
Las
ports.
obras de puertos ya están
The
avanzadas.
works of the port are advancing.
Se está haciendo un
We're
rompeolas
doing this wave breaker
en Salina Cruz
in Salina
para
Cruz
que puedan entrar barcos
so that boats could come in
de más calado.
of a bigger size,
Se está ampliando el puerto.
and the port is being
También les explico
amplified. And I'll also tell you
no
that
solo son los dos
it's
puertos
not only the two ports, but
más Puerto Chiapas, que está por acá,
plus Puerto Chiapas that is here,
que este se va a desasolvar,
that this one is going to be
este se está modernizando,
emptied. This one is
este
modernizing.
también.
This one too.
Las vías del ferrocarril
The railway
Y aquí,
ways
en
are
este
being fixed.
corredor,
And here in this corridor,
ya tenemos un poco más de 3,000 hectáreas. Son 10 parques. industriales.
We got more than 10,000 acres, 10 parks.
Es una cortina de desarrollo para que haya empleos.
It's like a curtain so that we have employments.
Que todos los que tienen necesidad
so that everybody that has necessity
de trabajo
to work
puedan aquí ocuparse.
can be there and work there.
Quienes van a invertir en los parques
Whomever
industriales
are going to be investing in the industrial parks
beneficios
will have the
fiscales.
benefits, fiscal benefits.
No van a pagar impuestos sobre
They're
la
not going to
renta.
pay any
Vamos
rents
a bajar el IVA.
for taxing on the rents. We're going to get down the taxes, bring them down.
Plataforma Nacional de Transparencia.
According to
No
the
hay
transparency
registro todavía
platform,
de-
there's no
Porque no hemos
register
lanzado
because
las
we
licitaciones.
haven't sent out the
Estamos por
licitations.
lanzarlas
We're about to do
para la
so
ocupación
for the
de los 10
occupation
parques
of the 10 parks,
industriales.
industrial
O sea,
parks,
que es en lo que estamos trabajando.
which is what
Yo
we're
voy a
working
ir,
on.
fíjense, voy
And look, I'm gonna be
posiblemente el 17 a Coatzacoalcos. Voy el 19 con legisladores de Estados Unidos al transísmico. Vienen diputados y senadores.
there's gonna be
Luego,
U.S. legislators
el
coming
20,
in, and then on the 20th,
voy de nuevo, voy a Chiapas.
I'm going back to
voy a la
Chiapas. I'm gonna go to that
El
zone,
21 tengo que
and
estar en
on the
Guelatao.
21st, I gotta be in
Eso
Guelatao.
es obligatorio.
That's obligational,
Además, con gusto lo hago.
and with very happy to do so.
Para conmemorar el nacimiento
To
de Juárez.
commemorate the birth of Juárez,
Y va a estar Kerry
Kerry is gonna be there
el 21. Lo invité.
on the 21st. I invited him.
Pero vamos a estar en Guelatao, pero en la
But we're
tarde
going to be in Guelatao, but in the
Vamos de nuevo.
afternoon, we're going to be
al Istmo.
to the ISM.
Se está rehabilitando
We are rehabilitating the
la refinería
refinery
de Minatitlán.
of Minatitlán.
Se está rehabilitando la refinería
We are
de Santa
rehabilitating
Cruz.
the refinery of Santa
Aquí
Cruz.
estamos invirtiendo además
We are investing here
coquizadora
in a coquizadora
de cerca de 5,000 millones de dólares.
almost
Todo presupuesto, todo. Presupuesto
$5,000 million.
no es crédito.
It's all per,
Fíjense cómo alcanza el
we're doing the
presupuesto
cooking
cuando no hay
plants,
corrupción.
all paid for by us. Look at how the budget works when there's no
En
corruption.
inversión pública este año es récord. Nunca
And in public
se han
investments,
destinado tantos recursos.
there's never
Inversión
any
pública.
resources so much.
Los gobiernos anteriores eran
Invested here.
concesiones. Construir carreteras concesionadas.
Construct consensus
De pago.
roads, toll
Segundos
booth
pisos se
style.
paga.
Second, bevels with toll.
O
Or
concesiones para
concessions
plantas de generación
for
de energía eléctrica
plant generating
privadas.
electricity generating plants, privates,
No de la Comisión Federal de Electricidad.
not from the Power Commission,
Y la entrega de bloques
and the turning
de
over
esta
of
zona, precisamente del sureste,
blocks of this zone,
Para
the
la
southeast,
explotación de
for the
petróleo.
exploitation of petroleum
a compañías particulares. Les entregaron
to
110
personal companies.
contratos.
They were turned in
¿Te acuerdas lo que
110
decían?
contracts. Remember what they
Que
used
iba
to
a
say?
llegar la inversión
That
privada
the
a
investment, the
raudales,
private
y
investments
que iba
was
a
going to come
incrementarse
in
la
loads,
producción de petróleo,
and the
que iba a
production of
llegar hasta
petroleum
2
was going to increment.
millones de
It was going to get to
barriles
2
con
million
la
barrels a
inversión
day with
privada.
the
¿Saben
private
cuánto producen?
investments. Do you know how much
Con
they're
210
producing?
contratos,
With
20,000
110
barriles
contracts?
diarios.
20 million.
¿Y
20,000
saben
million.
cuántos,
I'm sorry,
de
20,000
los 110
barrels a day.
contratos están
And do you know how much
explorando
of those contracts are explored?
y están
And
invirtiendo
they're investing
en
on?
3?
In 3 of them.
No fue una farsa.
That wasn't a fake.
¿Se acuerdan de lo que decían de que teníamos un tesoro
Remember what they used to say, that we had a
en las aguas
treasure
profundas?
in the deep waters there,
Que solo era cuestión de sacarlo.
that it was only a
Y para
question to
eso
get it out,
se
and that
necesitaba
for that we needed
entregar los contratos.
to turn in the
¿Saben qué
contracts.
querían?
Do you know what they wanted?
¿Por qué digo que el pueblo de México es mucha pieza? Porque los dejó ya cuando estaban a punto de acabar con el
You know why the
país.
people of Mexico are really good?
Dijo el pueblo,
Because
"Basta".
people said, we'll let you go, we'll let you do it.
Y es como
But then Mexican people said,
los
that's
ladrones,
enough.
¿no? Que entran a un banco
It's like the thieves, that they come into a bank
y están saqueando las bóvedas, ¿no?
and they're taking everything out of the
Metiendo el dinero
safes, putting in the money, rushing
en un costal,
in this
un saco.
bag or a sack.
Y entonces suena la alarma, ¿no?
And then the
Y
alarm
salen
starts going off, and then they go
y van dejando
out
tirado.
running and they leave all the money. That's how it was here.
Sonó la alarma.
The alarm was set off,
Y con lo que nos dejaron,
and with what we were left,
con eso. Les
That.
explicaba yo de cómo
and I was explaining
no
to you the other day
concesionaron esto.
how they didn't
Porque todo
steal
lo
from
demás lo
here
concesionó
because everything else was
Cedillo a
stolen.
dos empresas
They were given
extranjeras.
to another
Y
foreign
todavía tuvo el
companies,
cinismo de irse
and
a
even
trabajar
had the cynicism to go work for
después de
them
que les concesionó
after he gave them the
las líneas
companies,
férreas,
the railways.
de irse a trabajar de asesor de una de esas
He
empresas.
went to work as an advisor of one of the companies.
Bueno, ¿qué creen que querían?
And what do you think they wanted?
No solo los 110, ya
Not
estaban
only
a
the
punto
110 contracts, but they were
de
about
entregar
to turn this part to them too. Right
la
here,
zona turística.
the tourist locations,
La iban a concesionar, todo esto.
they're going to put it in consensus, sell it.
Estaban por convocar, le llamaban rondas,
They were about to convoke, they would call them rounds,
y ya no les dio tiempo.
and they didn't have enough time to take over that part.
Entonces,
So then,
ahora,
now,
fíjense lo que se
look
ha
at what
logrado, ¿no?
we've
Todos
accomplished.
estos estados
All of these states, for
tienen
example,
crecimiento económico.
have economical growth.
El año
And
pasado
this past year alone, Tabasco
fue el estado
was the state
con
that
más crecimiento económico en el país.
had the biggest growth in the
Eso
country,
no se había visto
and that hasn't been seen
en 40 años.
in 40 years.
Y lo mismo Chiapas,
And the same
y lo
thing with
mismo
Chiapas
Campeche, y lo
and
mismo
Campeche
Yucatán, y
and
Veracruz, y
Yucatan
Oaxaca.
and Veracruz, Oaxaca.
Porque
Because
estaba así.
it was like this.
El norte
North
creció en el periodo neoliberal
grew in the
4%.
neoliberal period 4%.
El centro 2%.
The center
El
2%.
sur-sureste 0.
South Southeast 0.
Entonces por eso el promedio de crecimiento era 2.
So the growth was 2% national.
Pero no era horizontal.
But it wasn't horizontal like that.
Ahora
Now
es parejo.
it's
Sigue creciendo el
even.
norte,
It's
va a
still,
seguir
the
creciendo
north
el
is
centro.
growing, the center is growing,
Y va a crecer el sur-sureste.
and the south southeast is growing.
También, ¿qué otra cosa remediamos?
What other thing did we fix as well?
Aquí teníamos el campo
Here, for example, we had the fields,
más importante de México,
more
campo
important
petrolero,
petroleum field
Cantarell,
in Mexico, called Cantarell,
de los más
from the
importantes del mundo.
most important in the world.
Este campo
This
nos
area,
llevó
this field here,
a dar 2 millones de
brought
barriles
us
diarios.
2 million barrels a day of petroleum.
Bueno, se lo acabaron.
Well, they finished that. They ended with that.
Por eso,
And so,
de 1900
from 1900,
no, del 2004
from 2004, I'm sorry,
con Fox,
with Fox,
se llegó a una producción de petróleo,
we
una
went to
extracción
a
de petróleo
petroleum extraction level to
de 3.400.000 barriles diarios.
3,400,000 a day.
3.400.000 barriles diarios.
400,000 a day.
¿Por qué?
And why was that?
Porque con Cedillo,
Because with
estaba
Cedillo,
el director de Pemex,
Layuz was there, director of Pemex.
decidieron intervenir
They decided to
los
intervene
pozos petroleros
the
y cuando iban perdiendo
petroleum locations,
potencia
and
natural,
then when they were losing power, natural power,
les inyectaron nitrógeno a los
they
pozos.
injected nitrogen
sacar más.
to the wells, oil
Entonces eso
pits.
lo hacen con Cedillo, Fox se
So they did
beneficia
that
y llega
with
a
Cedillo.
3.400.000 barriles.
Fox benefits on that,
Pero a partir
and
de
it
ahí,
goes up to 2,400,000.
ya
But starting from there,
en el 2005 ya no son 2.300.000, sino son 2.200.000. Digo 3.200.000.
so from then on, it's 300
Y en el
to
2006
3,200,000
y empieza
million.
la caída
And then the fall starts in after
hasta
the
15
3,200,000.
años consecutivos
15
que
consecutive
llegamos
years until we arrived
que ya era 1.600.000.
that it was 1,600,000 barrels a day.
Este campo que, como
These
les
wells here
dije, aportaba 2 millones
would
de
give
barriles, ahora
2 million
aporta
barrels, now
150.000
gives us
barriles.
150,000.
Entonces imagínense lo que tuvimos que
So
hacer
just imagine what we had to do
para
to
sustituir
substitute
la extracción que daba
the
Cantarell.
extraction that Cantarell would give us.
¿Qué hicimos? Empezamos
What did we do then? So we started
a explorar aquí,
to explore here.
en tierra. Ah, porque todo el periodo
Oh,
neoliberal,
because
como
in
no
the
les
entire
interesaba
neoliberal
extraer
period, because they
petróleo,
didn't care
aunque parezca increíble,
about the, even if it's
lo
amazing
que
to
les
you,
interesaban eran los
what they
contratos.
wanted was the contracts.
En vez de invertir aquí,
Instead of
en
investing
donde está el
here,
petróleo,
where the petroleum is,
se fueron a invertir acá.
they invested here.
A dar los contratos allá.
Give the contracts there. Pemex, for
Destinó
example,
durante el periodo neoliberal
during
la
the
mitad de su
neoliberal
presupuesto
period, destined
al
half
norte.
of its budget to the north,
Chicontepec, a las
Chicotepec,
aguas profundas.
to the deep waters.
Si se extrae petróleo de Chicontepec,
If you take
Que
petroleum
además
from,
no es
extract
mucho la
petroleum from
producción.
Chicotepec, that is
Cuesta
not a lot of production there. It costs us
$20
$20
extraer un barril.
to extract the barrel.
Acá estamos sacando ya
Here, we're pulling out
petróleo en tierra,
petroleum,
$6 barril.
$6 per barrel.
Entonces cambiamos completamente la
So we've
estrategia.
changed the strategy
Se
completely.
explora aquí,
We
tenemos la
explore here,
suerte,
we have the luck,
porque como decía
because,
Maquiavelo, la
as
política,
Machiavelli said, politics,
la buena política es
the good politics is
virtud y fortuna, virtud y suerte. Y
fortune
la suerte
and
es
fortune,
importantísima.
virtue and luck.
Y encontramos.
And luck is really
Yacimientos.
important, and we found
Tenemos ahora más reservas
wells. We have more
de
reserves now
petróleo que cuando llegamos.
of oil than when we arrived.
Nada más que nos propusimos no pasar de 2 millones
Only that we
de barriles.
proposed to not go
Solo
over
lo
2
que
million barrels, only
requiere nuestro país
what our country requires
para sus refinerías y
for
para
its
producir las
refineries
gasolinas
and to
en México,
produce the
porque
gasoline
vamos a ser
in
autosuficientes.
Mexico, because we're going to be autonomous. on that.
Bueno, ¿qué logramos?
Well, what did we
Sustituir, y
accomplish?
ahora Tabasco,
To substitute now,
después
Tabasco,
de
for
30,
example,
40 años, ya
after
está
30, 40
produciendo
years,
más del
it's producing more than
50%
50%
del 1.850.000
of
barriles que estamos
1,800,000
produciendo.
barrels that we're producing now.
1.850.000.
1,800,000.
Espero que para el año próximo
And I hope for the
ya
next
estemos
year we are
como
at
en 2000. Íbamos así, ya
2,000.
lo levantamos.
We've picked it up.
Entonces todo esto
So all of this
es muy importante que se
is
conozca.
really important that it's known, and
Y los que dicen, bueno, ¿y por qué tanta
the ones
inversión
that say, well,
pública en
how
el
much,
sureste?
why so many investment in the Southeast, public investments? Why? Well,
Primero porque ahí están los recursos
first, because that's
naturales.
where the natural resources are.
Segundo, porque es donde hay
Second,
más
because
pobreza.
that's where there's more poverty.
¿Dónde estamos destinando más recursos?
Where are we destining more
A Guerrero,
resources? To Guerrero, Oaxaca,
a Chiapas.
Chiapas,
Te los puedo probar con los programas
and
de
I can
bienestar.
prove it with the
Porque son los más pobres,
Bienestar
son los
programs,
más
because those are
necesitados.
the poorest, those are the ones that are more in
Y
need.
estamos llevando a la práctica
And
que
we're
por el
taking
bien de
into
todos,
account
primero los pobres.
That for the
Bueno,
well-being
pero
of
no solo
everybody,
eso.
first the poor. But
Porque
not only
hablamos de
that,
Cantarell,
when we're talking about
que no dejaron
Cantarell,
nada
for
en
example, that they
Campeche.
didn't leave anything in Campeche,
más que abandono,
but only abandonments.
después de que todo lo
After
sacaron de petróleo,
that everything they took out of
Por
with
décadas.
petroleum for decades,
saben que toda la ganancia
they know
del
that all
petróleo
the earnings of the
iba al
oil
presupuesto nacional.
was going to the national budget.
Durante 30 años,
During
los
30
ingresos
whole
petroleros
years,
significaban
the oil
el 40% del presupuesto nacional.
income was 40% of the national budget.
30 años, 40%
For
del
30
presupuesto.
years,
Pues el presupuesto se integraba
40%.
con
But
recursos
that
provenientes.
income, the budget,
petróleo.
was destined and
Y
covered
ese
by the income of the
presupuesto
oil. And that
no regresaba.
budget didn't come back.
Ese presupuesto se
This
utilizaba
budget was used
para todo el país.
for the entire country.
Entonces era una gran injusticia
And so it was a great injustice
de que no se
that
atendiera el
this was not
sur-sureste.
taken care of, the
Además, con todo
southeast.
el potencial
And with
que
all the
tiene,
potential it has,
porque no
because
solo
it's
son
not
los
only
recursos naturales. En el
the
sureste
natural
es el
resources in the
70%
southeast,
del
but
agua,
it's on the resources, it's
del
70% of the water of the country,
70%
70%
del agua.
of the water
Son los ríos más grandes de México.
are the biggest rivers in
Ahí está el
Mexico.
Usumacinta, ahí está el Grijalva,
Usumacinta, Grijalma,
ahí está el Papaloapan,
Papaloapan,
el río Coatzacoalcos,
Río Coatzacoalco,
el río Candelaria,
Candelaria River,
los grandes ríos.
those
Bueno.
great rivers.
Pero es también el petróleo.
But it's
Y es el
also the
gas.
oil and the gas.
Y las
Oh,
reservas
and the reserves as well.
naturales. más
Natural
importantes.
reserves, more important.
Aquí tenemos, y ya
We
vamos
have a lot,
configurar
and we're going to be configuring
la reserva de Calakmul
the
que se va a ampliar con más de
reserve
500,000
of Calakmul
hectáreas,
that is going
y va a
to be
ser la
amplified with
segunda reserva más
more than
importante
500,000
de América,
acres, and it's going to be the second most important
después
reserve
del Amazonas.
after the Amazon.
¿Y qué más tenemos?
And what else do we have?
Lo que no hay en otras partes del mundo.
What is not in any other places of the world?
No hay en otras partes del mundo.
What's not in any other places? The archaeological richness. This is the great nation, Mayan nation.
No hay en el mundo.
There is nothing in the
O
world,
sea, una ciudad antigua
an old ancient city like Palenque
de el siglo 6, 7,
of 6th,
de nuestra
7th
era,
century of our era,
en la época de
in
su
the
esplendor,
times of splendor,
no tienen
they don't have
Calakmul,
Calakmul.
siglo 3 antes de nuestra era,
3rd century before our era,
Tulum,
Tulum,
Chichen Itza,
Chichen Itza,
Uxmal,
Usmal,
Esna,
Esna,
ahora sí que como se dice coloquialmente,
as it
en
said
los pueblos del sureste,
widely in the
¿dónde lo vas a
southeast,
agarrar?
where are you going to grab yourself from?
Me preguntas de...
You're
Porque
asking me
todo
about,
esto
because all of
era
this,
Mesoamérica
Mesoamerica,
y aquí hubo dominio
and there was
o
this
presencia
presence or
y
dominance,
florecieron culturas
and cultures
como la
flourished
Olmeca,
as
la cultura madre,
Olmecas, the mother culture,
la cultura maya,
Mayan
y por
cultures,
acá estuvieron
and
también
on this side was
los mexicas.
the Mexicas.
Ustedes saben que,
So
por
you
ejemplo,
know,
Nicaragua
for
es
example,
náhuatl,
Nicaragua is all Nahuatl,
su nombre.
its name.
En Managua
In Managua, for
hay
example,
una colonia
there's
que
this
se llama
colony that's
Mexicanos.
named Mexicanos.
Bueno, esto le propuse al presidente de Guatemala,
I even proposed the Guatemala president, who is a
cuando
good,
estábamos trazando el tren
when we were tracing the train,
para integrar, porque miren,
to integrate,
aquí está
because
Flores,
look,
esta es
this
una
is
ciudad
Flores,
bellísima
this is a
de
beautiful
Guatemala.
city of Guatemala,
Es una isla.
this jungle,
Y aquí cerca, aquí,
and here, really close,
está Tikal.
is Tikal.
Y Calakmul está aquí.
Calamul is right up here.
Aquí en el límite hay
Right
una
here in the
zona
limit, there's a zone,
arqueológica que
archaeological
se llama El
zone,
Mirador.
that is called the El Mirador.
Todo esto es selva,
All of this is a jungle,
pero hay caminos antiguos
but there's old
de los mayas.
ways of the old roadways of the Mayas.
El trazo del tren
So the train Maya,
con el propósito de integrar.
with the purpose to integrate
Yo
Guatemala,
le propuse
I
al
proposed
presidente, a ver,
to the president, I told him, look,
aquí está Palenque.
so Palenque is here,
En vez de ir hacia
Calakmul
Escárcega,
is, and instead of going to Escárcega,
¿dónde está Escárcega? Por acá, por aquí,
right over here somewhere,
por aquí. Aquí está.
there's Escárcega.
De Palenque,
From
en vez de
Palenque,
ser aquí,
instead of,
hacemos una ruta aquí,
we can do a route
pero de
here,
aquí,
from
que
here,
viene siendo un lugar
where
que se llama
comes,
Candelaria,
it's called Candelaria,
que es el límite de Tabasco con Campeche.
limit with Tabasco and
zona
Campeche. There's
arqueológica que se
an
llama El
archaeological
Tigre
zone
también.
that is called El Tigre,
Extraordinaria.
extraordinary zone.
Bajamos aquí
We go down this way,
y la corremos por toda la
and we
línea
run it through the whole borderline
de México con Guatemala,
of Mexico and Guatemala,
para que de Flores
so that from Flores
se aprovechen
can be
pues
taken
todas estas
advantage all these zones,
y haya comunicación
and there's
en el tren
communication from the train
para acá, que aquí llegan 30
and heading up
millones de turistas.
to Tulum, where there's 30 million of tourists
Le dije
coming in
nada
every
más
year.
que quiero,
And I told them that
porque no vamos a invertir
we're not going to invest, of course, in
donde hay conflictos.
where there's
Lo
conflict.
único que quiero es una autorización,
Is an authorization, I
la línea
asked,
divisoria
that the divisional line
ya está
is already
reconocida
recognized
por ambos países.
by
Aquí
both
se generó
countries.
un conflicto en la época de
Because
Porfirio
there was
Díaz.
a conflict, a great conflict here
Y
in
hubo
Porfirio Díaz.
hasta
There was even
un tribunal internacional.
international
Ya se resolvió
tribunal. And so it's been
legalmente
resolved
por parte de
legally
México, pero los
by the part of Mexico, but
de Guatemala nunca
the
han
people from
aceptado
Guatemala have never accepted
la línea.
this line.
Entonces me dijo, no, no voy a poder. Le digo, porque
I'm not
quiero
going to be
por
able to
escrito,
do it. Oh, because I want it in writing.
porque no vamos a invertir.
Because we're not going to
Entonces
invest.
no. Entonces ya por eso el trazo
And he said no, so that's why this part
fue por
here
acá.
was through here.
Pues cuánta historia, ¿verdad?
A lot of history, huh?
Interesantísimo.
Interesting.
Vámonos a desayunar.
All right, let's go have some breakfast.
Porque,
Dinner
me
for us.
pasaba. Están
Oh, and I
invitados.
almost forgot. You're
Hoy
invited.
conmemoramos
Today's commemoration
un aniversario más de
an anniversary of
cobarde asesinato
the cowardice
del presidente Madero
assassination
y del vicepresidente
of President
Pino
Madero
Suárez.
and Vice President Pino Suárez,
Vileza
a
de una pandilla de
villainous
rufianes
of these gangsters,
que dieron un golpe de estado,
ruffians, Gilligan,
mantuvieron aquí en Intendencia, ahí va a ser el acto,
hooligan ruffians,
era la
and
Intendencia de
the intendancy of the palace. That's where
mantuvieron presos
they held them prisoner,
al presidente, al vicepresidente,
president and the vice president,
y lo sacaron en la madrugada de
and
hoy,
they took them out in the morning of today, of 1913,
y los asesinaron a medianoche
and assassinated them at midnight
ahí por Lecumberri.
by Lecumberri.
De las cosas más tristes y reprobables, ¿no?, de nuestra historia. Un hombre bueno, por eso se le conoce como el apóstol de la democracia.
That's why he's recognized as the apostle
Bueno,
of democracy.
Que se adelantó a sus
That
tiempos.
was
Quería que
fastest
México
to his time, and he
hubiese
wanted
una
that Mexico that
democracia,
lived in
que se
authentic
respetaran las
democracy,
libertades. Pero,
and that,
imagínense,
just imagine,
desmontar
unveil
régimen porfirista, que había durado
this
34
Porfirian
años.
regimen that lasted
Y por eso
34
tienen que
years.
tener paciencia,
That's why we need to be patient.
porque el neoporfirismo
The Neo-Porfirian
duró 36
times
años, desde 1983
lasted 36
hasta el
years, from
2018,
83 to
y
2018,
caló profundo.
and it hurt us really deep.
Para acabar con el porfiriato,
To finish
y
with the
eso no
Porfiriato,
en todo.
not only there,
Se tuvo que recurrir a las armas. Un gran sacrificio.
we
Un
had to go
millón
to arms.
de vidas perdidas
1 million lives
por la
lost
violencia, por pandemias, por el hambre.
with violence, with
Y
pandemics,
se avanzó
hunger,
después de la revolución en lo
and
social.
after revolution in the social, there were some advances, but not in the
Siempre
political realm.
repito de que
I
se
always
fue don
repeat
Porfirio,
myself
pero se
that
quedó doña
Don Porfirio was here, but Doña Porfiria stayed.
Y vaya que fue profunda la revolución.
And believe me, it was deep, that
Ahora,
revolution. Now,
sin violencia,
without violence,
estamos llevando a cabo esta transformación
we're taking on this
y
transformation
arrancando de raíz
and tearing
el
from
régimen de
the roots
corrupción, de injusticia,
the
de
regimen of
privilegios.
corruption and privileges
Entonces,
and
ahora
injustices.
vamos a tener un acto
And now we're going to have this act
recordando a Madero.
remembering Madero.
Mañana
Tomorrow,
tú quedas.
you're next.
Bueno, nos vemos.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for being here. My name is Ángel Ramírez. We will see you tomorrow afternoon again on La Mañanera de Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador. Thank you very, very much for being here. Honestly, I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to go to our channel that we have here. Look at it. It's AZTECRON Entertainment. Don't forget that we're always there, dealing about everything entertainment. Thank you very much, Ana, for being here. Gracias, Ana, por siempre estar con nosotros. Joselín, gracias por estar aquí. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay? Nos vemos mañana en otra transmisión de el presidente de México, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Take care of yourself, and please don't forget to join AZTECRON Entertainment Oficial. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.